With my last video uploaded, I've officially gone over every glitch that I know of. Even though there's more glitches that are being found, I'll probably cover that later in a year's time. But for now, what I'm not done covering are exploits. Exploits that can help you win games online. So you're still gonna need that internet connection. There is a way to play career online challenges with people, but I'm not gonna go over that because it's pretty self-explanatory. But what I will be going over are all the online game modes in the versus online menu. So, let's begin.
Okay guys, so this is going to be a pretty short tutorial, but I'm going to be showing you how to do a front flip on S.K.A.T.E.
Oh, sorry, my bad, wrong video. With these list of game modes, let's start from the top, starting with Spot Battle. Learn Comp. Cool, on to the next game mode, 1-Up. Learn Comp. Street Contest. Learn Comp. I'm not even going to say that word. Learn Comp. And Speed Glitch. Some contests just want you to get the highest air or the farthest distance. Out of these 4 game modes, you do need to know how to do comp, but I'm not explaining that in this video because it will take just too damn long, so that will be a completely separate video. Alright, let's actually get into this, starting with Hall of Meat. If you ended up playing Skate as a kid, you were probably just like me. Throwing your body off the highest building and watching your bones break was probably the highlight of your day. And with Skate 3, being able to control your body after you bailed led to higher Hall of Meat points. Just like you and me and everyone else watching this video, everyone thought 100k Hall of Meat points was really good, right? Holy shit, dude, just calm down. Here's one thing about Hall of Meat that you just might not know. Just because you break your bones and earn points does not mean that's the only way to get points. You can also get points by flipping in the air and holding poses. Just because you broke the most bones does not mean you're going to be at the top of the leaderboard. While holding poses does give you points, eventually those points will stop, and you have to do something different. And that's where this Hall of Meat technique comes in. This move, the community has dubbed the fish. No, I'm kidding, don't do that. It doesn't give you any points. It's just a gag, actually. To do this, just be in a spread eagle and time the RT, R2 movements. But what actually gives you continuous points is doing this backwards roll, and each time you do it, you get another 1,000. To ensure you're chaining these flips correctly, you have to be faced backwards and be in a cannonball. It's simple as being in a cannonball, pushing off the ground, flipping once, and landing back on your feet to push again to do another flip. While this movement is simple to do, if you are not experienced, chaining these together is kinda hard. I can't even do it for that long, and getting 1,000,000 would take me forever. And apparently, doing this rolling technique in reg helps you stay straight and not veer off your path. And there is one last thing I have to say about Hall of Meat. If you want to play competitive Hall of Meat, you theoretically could go on forever, meaning that the next person up will never have their turn. So to ensure that this is a competitive space, there's a thing called the 30-second rule. Community rules, not official. Meaning that you could thrash your body up until 30 seconds happen, in order to ensure fair play. That's all I have to say about Hall of Meat. Now, on to Death Race. When it comes to Skate 3 Death Race, it is completely different from Skate 1 and Skate 2. Skate 1 and 2, you had a countdown timer. In order to increase that countdown timer, you had to go through gates. If you missed a gate, your countdown timer would not increase. So if that timer hit 0 before you hit the finish line, you lost. In Skate 3, it is more lenient. It's just simple as get to the finish line. The gates are actually just a suggestion. They're a guideline to help you get to the finish line. Meaning if you know where the finish line is, you don't have to go through the gates. However, Death Race is completely different when played offline. Death Race is the only game mode that I know that has different play styles when compared to online and offline. When playing offline, there is an anything go mentality. When playing online, you are more restricted. And the only restriction online are the online barriers. Meaning, a majority of these races, there are completely different routes for offline and online. So, I will be going over every race for both categories. Before I go over the maps, I need to teach you death racing techniques. If you didn't know, pushing is the 3rd slowest way to get speed. The 1st slowest way is tic-tacking, and then doing manual wiggling. But those two aren't important. But what is important is getting off your board and running is a lot faster than just pushing. So if you and a friend have a race where you don't allow glitches, getting off your board and running is a lot faster than just pushing. The second thing you want to know is the pull-up method. I've gone over the pull-up method before in the speed glitch video, and if you haven't watched it, please do, because there are other speed glitches that you might want to know for Death Race. But the main method for speed that you want to know is the pull-up method. Doing any trick while holding your analog stick upwards will give you speed. And if you keep chaining tricks, you'll end up getting more speed. And you'll get even more speed quicker if you were to do them in manual pops, or nose manual pops. Your preference. Never let go holding up on the left stick and popping those manuals. You will get more speed and be faster than your friends. But to be truly fast, you're going to know how to do either the forward span, and that's about it really. The cannonball isn't as fast, and the backwards man involves you spawning on your feet, which you can't really do on Death Race. I mean, you can, but like your friends are already 10 seconds ahead of you, and if you fail, you're just going to end up in last place. With learning how to get speed over, I will now teach you the optimal route. Out of the 10 death races that you can do, there are only 3 races that you can do the exact same route for offline and online. Let's start with faster than water because it's pretty self-explanatory. You start at the top of Spillway and your goal is to get to the bottom of Spillway. There is no shortcuts, just go as fast as you can. But there are some tactics to do to get there faster. Starting off, you get off your board to get down to the bottom, and once you're off your board, you initiate a speed glitch of your choice. You keep going down until you get to this section here, and this is where most people mess up. You would think making a straight line is a faster way. However, there are a lot more obstacles, so you would just want to go around them. That is actually optimally faster, and hitting the red tube is not worth it. Now, if you have a lot of speed and you get to this section, going off this ledge, do not ollie. If you do, you will land and break all your bones. So you simply just ride off into the flat. Now at this section, there's a lot of obstacles in your way, so you would want to avoid them. And the clear solution is to just wall ride. And you take this wall all the way to the finish. And that is as simple as it gets. Now onto Park and Play. For Park and Play, if you follow the gates, they make you go everywhere. It's a jungle gym of going layer to layer until you get to the bottom. Well, why don't you just simply skip to the bottom? At the start, you get off your board to do a speed glitch. If you want to, it's a lot more risky if you do. But you head forward and hop over this ledge. Now, you make your way down into the street. And on this street, you get onto this platform, and from this platform, you drop down and into the finish line. That simple. Now, for Final Mountain Race. At the start, you get off your board and do a speed glitch. In the race, they want you to hop over this dirt mound. Well, you don't have to. Just simply go to the left and go straight down the road. You keep going until you exit the tunnel. Now, you make a hard right down this hill. Now, this is where it becomes tricky, because there's a lot of trees in your way, and you don't know where the road starts and ends. So you could run into a rail or another tree. But if you did manage to find the correct path, you want to make your way all the way back into the ditch. And once you're in the ditch, you make that wide left turn and the finish line should be right there. Or if you want to do record run, ramp off the side into the finish line. You are not going to make that jump, I promise you that. Now, for the rest of these races, the routes are completely different. So I'll start with Deadly Ditch. Now, Deadly Ditch is an oddity out of all the races. Most races, there's usually 2 leaderboards to keep track of, offline and online. Well, for Deadly Ditch, there's technically 3. For online, you have to go straight forward down the ditch because of the out of bounds. For offline, out of bounds is not a thing, so you could just shortcut straight to the finish. Well, there's also an offline way for straight method, which is just the online route. The only reason why there's a difference is because there's this glitch in the game that pushes you forward straight off the start. And if you get that glitch, it gives you a head start doing the straight method. And that glitch is only beneficial to Deadly Ditch. Doing it in any other race, it's not as beneficial. I want you to think of Deadly Ditch as Mega Park of Death Race. A very popular death race, but there's also different ways of playing this one map. Just like in Mega Park, you can go vert or flat. In this one, you can go straight or shortcut. Let's talk about straight method first. Deadly Ditch is the only race where you need to hit these transitions in order to increase your speed. Every other death race, there are no such thing as transitions to gain speed on. And there is a crucial timing when hitting these transitions. Every time you land in a transition, you want your skater to look like this, with the legs sticking straight out, trying to land on the ground as soon as possible. This action right here is what we call carpeting. When your skater is in this animation, that means it's providing more downforce, which creates a lot more speed. And that's what you want. There is no tactic to this other than timing your ollies in order to land in the transition. So, from the start, you drop in, make sure to ollie over this little gap, do some pull-up nollies, time your jump so you get that carpeting on this transition, go underneath the tabletop, and do another carpeting transition where you get to the bridge and hope that you get another carpeting transition. From here, you lip off this bank to get into another transition, followed by more nollies, into more transition, and then you want to transition into this spot directly if you have enough speed. Now you're home free. Very tactical map for how simple it is. It's the closest thing we get to Trackmania on S.K.A.T.E, honestly. Now for the offline method, where it's just final mountain race again, except that this time the finish line is a lot closer. Next we have Bruise Cruise, where offline and online have similar routes. For online, you want to follow the intended path until you get to this spot here, where you jump down into the Crystal Towers area. And in this area, you want to kind of hug the right because going to the left will be out of bounds. Keep staying straight until you get to the finish line. Now you could still use this same method for offline, but if you want to get world record, you kind of have to use objects. Spawning in objects at the start of a death race, the object won't stay there. That's why you have to spawn it away from the starting point. Once you start the race, you grab the object and pull it closer to where you want it to be. And for this race, you want the object to be spawned right in front of you. Now that it's in place, restart the race, and then do the RBR1 launch. A very RNG launch, but trust me, this is how you get record, because with this air, you land in this transition. Then, from the streets, you hop back into the Crystal Tower area. This time, you could stick to the middle where there's less obstacles to avoid, and continue all the way into the finish line. Now, for every other race I'm going to go over for the offline category, they are completely different from the previous races that I've talked about, because these races involve warping. And the first warp map I'm going to go over is Speed Thrills. The online method is very simple. Go down the hill until you get to this spot where you can just launch yourself off to the bottom and get straight to the finish line. There is issues where people keep respawning back to the top, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know why it happens. It's happened to me and I don't know the fix. For offline, it's just a little bit different. So off the start, you do your speed glitch until you get to this fork in the road. Online, you want to go to the right to launch yourself off. Offline, you stick to the left and keep going until you get about here, and that's where you bail, which then it warps you right to the finish line. Moving on to Rooftop Race. For the online method, you can kind of do the intended route by following the gates, or you can kind of make a shortcut right here just to get to the finish line a little bit faster. Now for the offline method. For the offline method, just pretend you're doing faster than water. Do a speed glitch, get to this area, do the wall ride, and right where the finish line's supposed to end, bail. That will warp you right to the finish. Now we're moving on to Perilous Path, where it has a similar starting point to Final Mountain Race. So you do the exact same thing for online and go straight down the street, and not down the black path. Once you exit the tunnel, do not turn right because it's out of bounds. Keep following the street until you get here, where you jump back into the track itself. Now from here, you can either follow the path until the finish line, or YOLO it and hop over the mountain, fail, and spread eagle all the way to the finish line. Now for offline, and you are not gonna believe this, but it's Final Mountain Race again, baby, the third time! The only difference is that you're allowed to go on the road that's onto the right, where it's easier to line up to hit this wall where you bail and warps you straight to the finish line. Now for the scenic route, which is probably my least favorite one to play on online. At the start, you follow the road, make this left, go through some buildings, and the only really difference between the intended route and what you're supposed to do is just hop over this wall, and then you're home free. Now for the offline route, which is probably the biggest change in any of these death races, because at the start, instead of going forward, you go backwards. And trust me, this route is faster if you have fast speed glitches. Follow the road until you come to this T-cross section where you make a right. Once you made that right, keep going forward until you run into this planter. Running to that planter will cause you to bail and warp you to the finish line. Now onto the final race, which is probably the easiest race to do offline. Online, there are two routes that you can do. The first one is to go forward and take the side path, which eventually leads down to the big staircases, into the street, and from the street, it carries all the way into the finish line. Or, off the start, you make an immediate right, where you go straight down the middle, and if you have too much speed, you could clear the staircase. But if you slow down just a bit, you can grind on the handrail, which transitions speed, and go down the stairs, which then leads into the street, which goes to the finish line. Now for the offline method. Instead of going straight to the left, you go behind you, towards the stadium. You couldn't go that way online because of a barrier. But with offline, since there is no barrier, you head straight towards the stadium, And knowing where the finish line is, you would think that heading down the big hill that's next to the stadium is a shortcut in itself, which it is, a huge time saver. However, you can cut that second part out and bail right here, which warps you to the finish line, or just short of it. From there, you can either let the speed carry you to the finish line or do another speed glitch. Your choice, but generally, if your speed glitches are good, you could get a 15-second time. And that is all I have to tell you about Death Race. It's really fun doing Death Race, but there's not many people competing for world records. If you are interested in becoming faster at Death Race, please check out Who's Heat on YouTube. He's the king of Death Race as of now. And lastly, I'm now going to talk about the S.K.A.T.E game mode. Unlike Death Race, the S.K.A.T.E game mode is still very popular, and each S.K.A.T.E map has a unique way of setting a trick. But for now, I'm going to go over the general terminology that can work on all maps, starting with getting objects in your game. I covered it in the last video, so I'm just going to do a very shortened explanation. Place objects, create online free skate, invite friend, move to spot, friend leaves. Ta-da! At the start of a round, since there is no countdown timer, you can actually bail and still have your turn, meaning you can manipulate your spawn by waiting till the round ends, and when it's your turn again, you do this bail technique in order to spawn back to where you left off, meaning you can do a faster setup for those weird tricks at places like Can You Spill Skate. When setting a trick, there is a certain area where you have to perform your trick, but it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it's within the area. Take Campus for example. Everyone does a trick off the bubble for the trick to count. However, you can just trick onto the bubble and it will still count. You also don't even have to land within the area as long as the trick is somewhat in it. For an example, Can You Spill Skate? You could easily ride over the area you're supposed to do and do the trick out of it. But we can also take this to Over the Top Skate, where they expect you to trick over this platform. What? This is why Over the Top Skate is so hard, because objects don't spawn online? Because of Black Box's goof, you can actually set a trick coming from the sides. So no more clipping your wheels on this stupid platform. As mentioned previously, each skate map has a unique way of setting a trick. For example, at Campus, if you launch yourself far enough to the point where you get reset in the out of bounds, it will still set the trick. Or at Pier Skate, where we abuse the water that's at the floor. By leaping over the ledge within the box itself and doing the super do glitch to clip through the ground, you will reset and be able to set a trick anywhere you want. Now, probably the wildest of them all at Clock Tower, if you were to launch yourself off the clock tower and reset, but make sure you're doing late flips while doing so, once you respawn, you can set a trick anywhere you want to. At Canal, you can actually set a backwards band bounce off this ledge, and hopefully you land on the stairs for it to count. But also, let's remember that you can still use objects everywhere else that's not Campus, like at Pier. Now let's actually talk about setting a trick itself. And in the S.K.A.T.E game mode, the game only checks for what flip trick you did and how many rotations you've done. For example, I can do this wild gnarly ass trick doing any type of grab and would only count my flip trick and spin rotation, meaning that the other person just has to do that trick. This also means the game doesn't count for body flip rotations. So if you were to set a ollie 180, you could match that trick just by simply doing an off-axis backflip. But let's talk about tricks that you could set that are untraditional. The traditional ones just being any flip trick you can do. However, there are some things you can't set, like a 1 foot. At least you're not supposed to. If you were to ollie and stick out a 1 foot, the game would just detect the ollie. However, to set a 1 foot, you have to caveman into it. Either that or get air without popping a trick. And this same method works for late flips and late dart catches. By doing that, it is an easy way to get layers on people who have no idea about this trick. But for people who do know about it, you can easily copy it by not having to do the caveman, but actually ollie and do the late flip 1 foot late dart catch. Now onto other tricks you're not allowed to set, like an underflip, and other dart catches. But because I'm not that great at skate, nor do I want to get better at it, I'm not going to show you all the variations of how to do every underflip and dart catch trick, because Blink has already done that. I will link his video in the description if you want to learn how to do any of these tricks. But I will teach you how to increase your spin rotation. For most of you who have played this skate game mode, you're probably thinking just do a speed glitch. That's how you get the most air and can get the most spins. But that only works for Campus. I'm going to teach you how to get more rotations in every other skate map. But still sticking to Campus, to get an extra 180 out of a spin rotation, you can either do a BS to mute and a backside spin, or you hold out a mute tuck knee or a stale tuck knee, both in a backside rotation. Now on to the rest of the skate maps. What you want to learn how to do are foot plants. Foot planting does increase your spin rotation, and for most of you people who try to learn how to foot plant, it probably looked like this. Well, to help you with your spin rotation, you first want to find a hill to learn how to do multiple foot plants on. And my favorite place is that shortcut hill in Death Race, because it's the longest slope that I know that is naturally made. The biggest issue that people run into when foot planting is that they keep holding one direction. The main issue is that everyone keeps holding the analog stick left or right when doing multiple foot plants. If you understand S.K.A.T.E 3 enough, you realize that you can do multiple foot plants, and you can do them going down a slope, but adding a rotation is the tricky part, because you want to hold your rotation while you're in the air. When your foot touches the ground and you try to spin, that throws your skater off, and you either go to the left or to the right, which minimizes your air time in order to do another foot plant. So this is what you need to do. Foot plant while you're in air, rotate. As soon as your foot touches the ground again, let go of the stick until he gets into the air again, where you spin again. In air, spin, on ground, don't. And the optimal foot plant is the fast plant. And it doesn't matter which stance you're on, you want to spin front side. So to the right in goofy and to the left in reg. Now, doing this on flat ground, you only have a limited amount of foot plants you can do before your skater ends up bailing. But the saving grace is, there are methods to increase your foot plants on flat. One of them is pulling down on the left stick once you initiate one of your foot plants, because that will give you a boost in height. And with one foot plant, you could possibly do a 720. Obviously, adding more foot plants would increase your rotation. That's why the community has found a infinite to increase your rotations on flat. I put it in quotes because you theoretically could do it forever. However, it is really hard to pull off. And this foot planting method is what the community has called a frosty. The reason for that name is because if you do it correctly, your foot will end up swirling on the ground, making it look like a frosty from Wendy's. Or at least that's what I was told. I don't know the true meaning behind the name, so don't attack me if I got it wrong. Moving forward, to make yourself do the frosty, you have to let go of the foot plant button, meaning the leg that is sticking out. So either X or A, square or X, if you're on PlayStation. And with it, you should see your leg swirl, but that doesn't give you the height to do the next foot plant. What gives you the height is that pop thing I talked about, pulling down on your left stick. So you have to frosty, hold on the left stick, and then spin. This is the best way to get high rotations in a game of Skate. So sorry to any campus Beeglitch players. And that's everything I have to tell you about Skate that I know of. There is a way to set a kickflip or a pop shove it into foot plants, but I'm not sure on how to do it because every time I try, I just bail. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you come back for my next video where I talk— wait, I forgot to talk about domination. Learn comp.